Chapter 1. Alyssa lifted her wedding dress onto the counter and handed the hanger to Loretta Klatt, swallowing back the lump in her throat. "Hun, are you sure about this? You love this dress. You've been eyeing it for years and it fits you like a dream. Sure you don't want to keep it just in case?" Loretta draped the dress over one arm and sighed as she glanced up at the wall. Hundreds of photos hung there, all brides that Loretta had dressed and sent down the aisle in the 40 years she'd owned the shop. Alyssa had assumed her own bridal photo would be hanging there by now. "No, thank you," she nodded to make it definite. "It's been 2 months. I'm not getting married. Not to Brendan, anyway. Maybe never." She pulled her eyes from Loretta's and hung her head for a few moments before she looked back up to see Loretta hanging Alyssa's beautiful dress on a rack behind her. She blinked a few times, resolved that there would be no more tears. She took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Thank you, Loretta, for taking the dress back." Loretta stuffed her hands into the pockets of her jeans, her plain white button-up shirt straining against a full bosom. For someone who made a living dressing people in wedding attire, Loretta was not exactly a walking advertisement for her business. Her long gray hair hung to her waist, and her short-cropped bangs were cut high above gray eyebrows. "I'm just so sorry about what happened. I've seen my share of couples, believe you me, and I really thought you and Brendan were the real thing. If ever a man was crazy about a girl—" Loretta shook her head and frowned, bringing together a roadmap of wrinkles. Alyssa wasn't sure how much more pity she could swim in. She was drowning in it. Forcing a smile, again, she said, "Evidently not." She gave a quick wave before she walked out of the shop. As the bell on the door clinked against the glass, she was reminded how many times she'd been in and out of Loretta's store, for fittings, to choose bridesmaid dresses, or just to chat with Loretta about her wedding. Her wedding to Brendan Meyers, the only man she'd ever loved, but now hated. Brendan counted out the last of $300 to Rudy Schmutz. Rudy shook his head. "I'll take your money, but I can't promise it'll do any good." He stuffed the bills into one back pocket and pulled a can of chewing tobacco from the other. He put a pinch between his cheek and gum. "She ain't gonna get back with you, fella. You humiliated that girl in front of the whole town." "I'm not giving up. Ever." Brendan looked up at the blue sky above, imagining the banner trailing behind Randy's crop duster and the look of surprise and wonder on Alyssa's face. "Now remember what I said. You gotta fly over Monument Hill at 2 o'clock next Saturday. That's when they start the reenactment. Alyssa will be there for sure. Her dad makes sure the family goes to that stuff." Rudy shrugged his broad, bony shoulders. "Whatever you say." He spit out a brown stream, then raised his bushy brown eyebrows. The guy was about 50, but he looked more like 80 to Brendan. His face was weathered, he walked with a limp, supposedly from falling off a bull, and he was always scowling. But he was the only guy with a Pawnee crop duster who was willing to take the job at a price Brendan could semi-afford. Brendan had gotten back the deposit he'd put down on a small house for him and Alyssa, but he'd given it to his parents on top of the rent he'd already paid them. At the time, that had seemed like the right thing to do, especially since his mother had been diagnosed with breast cancer. But based on the amount of booze in the house, he didn't think the extra money was going toward his mother's health care. He'd already started putting money away for another deposit. Rentals in small towns didn't come along often, but he wanted to be ready when one did. He really needed his own place. Another reason he shouldn't be spending money on stuff like banners. Not that that would stop him. "I have to get back to work before Lenny gets back from the Lions Club meeting." His rancher boss was a great guy, but Lenny expected a full day's work for a fair wage, and Brendan had always given Lenny 100%. It wasn't just a matter of being a good employee. Brendan loved the work, especially tending to the horses. Rudy chuckled as he limped back to his truck. "Should've just married the girl when you had the chance." Brendan pushed back the rim of his Stetson, a Christmas gift from Alyssa. "I know that, Rudy, and I aim to get her back before it's too late." Alyssa found Sherry at the back of the cafe in the booth where they always sat. Her blonde hair was braided into pigtails, which only made her chubby cheeks look even rounder.